This is the Authentic Dating series brought to you by Ahmad and David,
where we explore what it takes to have a dating life you're excited about.
Hey guys, I'm David.
I am Ahmad.
And this is the Authentic Dating series.
So in this episode, we're going to discuss a question that is commonly asked to us by men. Do our looks matter in dating?
Yeah, this is a question that I think men get really, really hung up on in the dating sphere of thinking, I can't get the girl that I'd really love to have because I'm not good looking enough. It's kind of like money as well, isn't it, right? Like guys always like, I'm poor. Women don't want poor men. And I don't know, what do we think? What do you think?
Well, yeah, it's one of those ones where it's easy to say, look at people around us and say, okay, this person has money or this person has attractiveness, looks, better style, better this, better that. And that's why they are getting dates or they're more successful. And actually, to begin with, I think, when you do look at life and society, there's definitely like a sort of disparity between good-looking men or what would be classed as like attractive men and their ability to attract females who are also attractive. And it's the sense that because that they're attractive, that's what's doing it. That's the thing that they have. That's therefore men who are not as attractive as them then are not able to attract or get as many dates or be as lucky.
The lucky thing. So when you say disparity, you mean the difference between attractive men and not so attractive men?
Yeah. I just mean like in terms of, I use a bar club scenario again, and it's just like when you're in a bar or a club and you see like the good looking men. And so an interesting thing here actually, because every single time I say this idea of good looking or attractive, like one of the things I learned about attractiveness is that what it really boils down to is symmetry.
Oh, you mean in terms of like facial attractiveness?
Yeah.
I think we might have to tell the difference here between what we call kind of all-round attractiveness for someone and what we call kind of physical attractiveness.
Yeah. So in this case, like when people are looking around, it like they look at a man who has or even for females who are very like symmetrical in their features. If you look at a magazine, a lot of like models and stuff, that's what's prominent is the symmetry, and that's what scientifically I think there was even a documentary I saw on, I think it was on Netflix or something.
It's got to be Netflix.
Yeah,
he's wasting away his life watching Netflix.
Yeah. Don't do what I do as I say. No, there was something. Yeah, it was just, and it really, you look back and there's just this idea of like especially a long time ago, that's how they used to pick like beauty pageant models and this thing, just by the the exact like measures of the face and the symmetry and stuff. So anyway, that's kind of a bit of a side point, but nonetheless, so men who don't feel themselves to be attractive are looking around and they're seeing other men who occur as attractive, whether it's in their build, their physicality, maybe their height, good hair.
Good hair. I'd love
stellar
good hair.
beard.
Stellar. I wish I had a good beard. I can't grow a beard.
Scraggly. Yeah.
I look like a homeless man, and not that homeless man that used to pick up loads of girls in California. Do you know that story? Do you remember that story? There was this like PUA homeless guy who didn't have a home. He was homeless, and someone taught him some game. And what he used to do is like pick up girls on the street and then go back to their place, sleep with them, and then steal all their food. Do you remember that story? Well, I don't know how real it was, but I remember hearing it years ago.
I do remember a story of a homeless dude who was good at getting girls. Yeah, but I didn't. I think there's probably loads, more than just the one in LA. So where was it?
Was it like California or something?
California, yeah.
So guys, be careful when you see those homeless guys. Yeah. When you're with your girl, he might take them or take her away.
But that's actually a nice example of, especially not with regards to looks, but with regards to like the money thing, right? Like it just goes to show. So yeah, but we do get questions from guys who say, I'm not as attractive as my friend, and
I'm always feeling that way.
and so they will look at their friends and say, they're getting attention because they're attractive, and I'm not because of the way I look more ordinary. And so it's an interesting one because you can kind of look at it objectively and say, these guys are having more luck or more success or more this, but is it true that like you must be attractive in order to have success with dating?
I would say I'm going to be really straight with what my opinion is. I think it's rubbish. I think this whole thing about men needing to be good looking to get girls is rubbish, because I've just seen so much of the contrary over the years. It's just not the case. I think men kind of get it into their heads a lot, especially men, that they have to be, you need to fucking be Brad Pitt, or you've got no chance, or you need to be, built like Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, or you've got no chance. But again, I just think it's just rubbish, because I've seen enough evidence in my life of guys who, actually, I'll give you enough. I've seen evidence of very good looking men who are really boring, and yeah, they may end up, women will find their way to talk to them, the whole stand at the bar, they accidentally bump into you and start talking to the guy, and very quickly they want to leave because they're like, oh wait a minute, this guy's really fucking boring, he's got nothing going on.
And so what do you do when that happens to you?
What if you're the boring guy?
Yeah.
What do? You fucking
That was a good setup there.
Yeah, setting up hard there. No, you'd have to fucking expand yourself as a human being, right?
I was joking, Dave. Carry on. Yeah.
Oh,
so yeah, the example of the boring, attractive man at the bar is not good with the chat.
Oh no, it's not. It's not good for the chat. So what I'm saying is that
I threw you off. So yeah, I think what Dave is saying, because actually when we were coaching, what I remember in the coaching days is, we coached all kinds of men, and it was, I was going to say surprising, but it was unsurprising that there were actually quite a lot of good looking guys. Some of them were even models who came through the coaching programs, and they really struggled. And it was just what you said there. It was just about how they were, other than their own looks, they had nothing else to offer. Yeah. So then when they were faced with a woman who wasn't just interested in their looks, they were, number one, taken aback. Yeah. They didn't know how to handle it. Yeah. In fact, actually, now that I say that, I remember once walking into a restaurant with a friend of mine who was tall, and I often took the piss out of him, saying he was in the good looking club. If he's listening now, he'll know who I'm talking about. But I remember once we walked into this bar, and one of the first things he said was, no one's looking at me. Oh. Yeah. And wow. It was like a... So yeah, for him, he could still chat, but it is that thing. That thing where you're used to something, and then the minute it's not there, it kind of leaves you surprised. Yeah, and you also kind of disturbs your reality, right? It's a big shift from your normal reality of having people always looking at you and wanting to look at you and smiling at you and things like that. But I'm going to say that I really don't think that looks matter that much. Like in terms of men, I think men get really hung up on it. I think that we often will see a good looking man and see it could be any success in his life, right? It won't necessarily be just kind of with women, but you'll see a good looking man and he's talking to some girl somewhere, or he's flirting with some women, and we go, oh yeah, that's happening because he's good looking. But actually it's probably because there's a whole raft of other things going on for him, right? He's probably reasonably amusing, he's probably quite funny, he's probably quite interesting, he does a very good job of conveying his character as a person. So I not that I disagree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, but rather to say that, well, yeah, if it's in some cases, like if the guy is good looking, then he has a bit of a head start. But the key thing here is, and it's a very big but, is that it's not that it actually matters in the grand scheme of things. You're not completely at loss if you're not that guy. Is it like being born black? You being about 10 steps behind. Yeah, well, I'm brown, bro. So I'm just like, I wouldn't know the difference. Yeah. No, I'm joking there. So yeah, I'd say because it's like you said, for these men who are model-esque, then yeah, they can have a kind of a head start or whatever if they're visually attractive, but that's not the only thing that matters. It's like one thing, and it's literally like one thing. And the other thing to say here as well, which is actually quite interesting, is that I would have to say that both David and I are probably considered to be somewhat attractive. We're probably not on that scale of like Calvin Klein models. Well, at least on me.
If you see a picture of me and you feel I can be a Calvin Klein model, I'm perfectly willing to do that. It'd be a nice change of work for me. So please get in contact.
I guess we never tried.
We never tried.
Yeah,
we didn't try hard enough.
But the interesting thing, at least I do know Dave has a similar story to me as well, is that we've never actually considered ourselves to be attractive. And so the irony, if I don't know if that's the right word, it's a difficult word to use correctly, but the irony for me is that, especially in my younger years and stuff, I never considered myself to be attractive. When I was really young, or at school, I had a huge nose. It was huge.
It was huge. Huge.
Yeah, it was huge. And then I used to have these like big spots that would form at the end of it, as if the nose wasn't big enough. I would have a huge spot at the end of it. So I grew up believing like, I'm not that good looking. But when I look back now, I'm like, actually, I wasn't that bad. But the thing is, it was my own perception of myself that dictated things.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what other people thought of me. I didn't hold that opinion. I don't think it really supported me in any way, because if anything, it went against me. Because then whenever I was like being jokey or sarcastic and people thought I was being serious, they thought I was a complete arsehole. Like they just thought, who is this guy coming over here?
Being a dick.
Yeah. Being a complete dick. Like, who's this? Like, why is he so arrogant? And really, I was just shy and scared inside.
And that's an interesting one, right? So I feel like, for me, I can really resonate with what Ahmad said there. And I realize that I'm always calling you AJ on the podcast, and I don't know if people realize that I call him AJ sometimes, so that makes sense for you. But I never really, and even to this day, I wouldn't necessarily go, I look in the mirror and just think, oh, wow, I look really hot. I don't think that. Some days I feel like I've dressed well. But I wouldn't say that I would class myself as kind of good looking in the kind of classical sense, because it's just not necessarily how I feel. But it's not a case of I'm perfectly happy with how I look, but it's just that it's just not what I think of myself. And this is interesting because I've had people, I would say men and women, tell me that they would regard me as being good looking, and I kind of go, yeah, thank you, it's really kind of you, and it's nice of them to say, and I don't necessarily completely disagree, but I don't hold it to be kind of this truth thing that everyone sees around. But one of the things I want to go back to is, you were talking about how looks can give a guy a head start.
Yeah.
I've also feel that actually sometimes can hold a man back, or kind of give him not a full start. No, it can kind of damage his chances sometimes. Like, especially I remember in our coaching days, I remember one of the guys we coached with, for instance, he was literally a model. He was a model. And sometimes he would go over and talk to women and they'd be very hostile to him. Because it was almost like, why the fuck are you over here? What do you want? And it's to do with their own self-confidence, obviously.
Yeah.
But they had a preconceived idea of what he would be like and who he would be because of his looks, right? So I can see that actually it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah. No, I see that too. It's one of those things, right? Like, so it's easy to perceive it, but then when you actually look at it in action and you recognize that it also depends on how a woman feels about herself. Yeah. And then how they feel about, that man and their stories about a man who's attractive and his background, and it can actually be we know plenty of cases where it backfires in the sense that they just think, oh, this guy is just arrogant, he's hot, he thinks he can get any woman he wants, and then it's they have to contend with a whole another realm.
You just have it's like kind of how you say, no matter how much, if you're poor, you have certain problems. And then when you get rich, you have other problems. It's not like your money removes all your problems. And I'd say it's really similar to looks, right? As a guy, if you're kind of out in the dating world and trying to find a relationship and stuff, that looks is a bit of a double-edged sword. That would be my opinion. I think it can, it can help and it can hinder all at the same time.
Yeah. I think the thing that we find is more important in regards to attractiveness is actually recognizing that women. I had a really good line here. So
this is a really good line, guys. Just stop whatever you're doing.
Yeah, this is really awesome.
Put on the noise cancelling bit and listen to this line. It's like golden.
So women have a more realistic view of attractiveness than men.
Boom.
Well, I suppose I should explain what that means. So what that means is that actually women, we find in general, and of course there are always going to be women who go for the physicalities and wotnot.
Thank God.
But in general, say again.
I say thank God.
Oh, thank God. Yeah. So in general, we find that what women find attractive is completely different to what men observe as attractive, or what we've been programmed to believe is attractive. And so what we find with women is that they look to a man's strength of character and his leadership as attractive. And so when we say that, it's like there's so much that goes into that and comes from that. It comes from a man, or rather how that's communicated. And that can be communicated for a man's sense of humor, his sense of worldliness, his sense of purpose, his sense of style. It's all like his unreactiveness, he's like having his own sense of self and not being at the whim of the wind and what people are saying, and
standing in his own power, really. It's that kind of what we used to say often,
je ne sais quoi.
Being kind of non-needy, just being very much on purpose. You know, he walks into a bar, opens the door, closes the door, throws his jacket down in the chair, goes to the bar, buys a drink. Do you know why? Because he wanted to buy a drink at the bar. He doesn't walk into the bar, look around, who's looking at him, what's happening, quiver a little bit if he sees someone that, you know, might be looking at him a bit, put his jacket down in a particular place that's stationed for jackets or something, and then maybe toddles off to the bar, concerned he may, you know, disturb the floor, and then order a drink. You know, it's a real different way in which you move through the world. Yeah,
the sad thing is as well, you say that now, is that I just really see how for many men, and I know this affects women too, is that we're hugely impacted by what we see in the media and what they say is attractive.
It's the programming.
Yeah, and actually it's just like fashion. I don't know if you guys have heard, but like fashion is fake. It's just made up, right? It's just like this season, this is in style, and that like, next season we're going to switch it up, and then you're going to have to buy those garments for your fashion lifestyle. And it's very much the same with looks. You know, when you look at models and who's hot now and who was hot back then, and so on and so forth, there's a general sort of like, you know, I don't know who's picking this, but someone's picking it.
The evil powers in fashion.
Yeah, but someone's picking it, and then the sad thing about that is, for us not involved in fashion, is we can get caught up in this ideal and think that's what's actually going on in reality, but it's not. It's not what's going on. It's in fact, and when we look around us, there's plenty of examples of people who have just gone, fuck it, you know, I'm going to live my life and do things my way.
Yeah.
And you can actually see that in Hollywood, right? Like Danny DeVito is a great example.
Yeah.
You know, he's a guy who just broke the mold with regards to what would be classically seen as an actor or an actress in Hollywood by, you know, not being tall and burly and whatnot. Yeah. So apologies if you hadn't realised, Danny DeVito, you're a very good actor.
He's a great producer here these days as well.
Yeah, true that.
We're reading some stuff about him. But yeah, it's really interesting to see how fashion really dictates looks. You know, if you look back, if you go a bit further back, you know, you go back to some of the stars in kind of the 60s and stuff, and there were a lot more, you know, the women, I'm going to talk about the women because the ones I can really remember. The women were a lot more kind of curvaceous than what we see now. We're looking at, say, what's that girl's name from Pirates of the Caribbean? Keira Knightley, for instance, she's tiny, right? For me, she'd be tiny. She might fall over and break. But, you know, you go back to some of those kind of 50s and 60s and the women were just a lot more kind of voluptuous. And you see how this is a fashion thing, right? Just changed with ages. But even, you know, I've said this to you before, it's very cultural as well. Looks are very cultural, right? So if you go, you know, we all have the old adage, right, about black men like really big women. But it's actually... AJ's looking at me, it's really funny. Look, it's hilarious. If you go somewhere like Jamaica, for instance, and it's really true, you know, they do like women who are a bit bigger. And a lot of it comes down to, I presume, very long slavery thinking, as I call it. It's like, you know, a woman who's bigger, she's probably well fed. She's probably more likely to, bore children and stuff like that. Whereas in the West here, we've kind of wandered into this, like, okay, it's very slim, it's very good. Though it's kind of, we're getting out of that now, you know, in the last kind of 5 or 10 years. But it's really for the men to see for themselves is actually, a lot of it is just like, it goes with the wind, you know, with the fashion. So it's a case of, you may look at yourself and think, okay, I don't think I'm a very good looking man, like, you know, like myself, but this isn't going to mean that you're going to be doomed to loneliness for the rest of your life, right? And if you believe that you're going to be doomed to loneliness for the rest of your life because of your looks, that's exactly what will happen, right? But actually, you have complete power over your overall attractiveness as a human being.
Yeah, like what I'm picking up from what David is saying here is that there is actually a lot more going on than your physical appearance. And the great news is that women actually admire that more in terms of just physical and even in monetary sense as well. Like this episode we've focused on looks, but actually it's the same story with finances, money, you know, shiny, flashy things. And at the same time, I don't think either of us here are saying that it's bad to have these things. More to the point, we're saying that this is not what matters, and especially what I'm definitely learning as I get older. This is not what matters in the long run. Yeah, it's like if you don't have that sense of self, that sense of purpose and character in your own self, like then in a relationship or as you grow, it's like you don't have anywhere to stand. You don't have confidence in your own ability and who you are. And then just you as a character. I think part of me, what I'm thinking here now as well, is like, it's just not as much fun, you know, in life. I think that's one of the great things about, I mean, this is going a bit off topic here, but one of the great things about getting older and growing up and becoming more mature is enjoying yourself more and letting go of the insecurities and worries and concerns about what other people think.
Yeah. And the looks is very much a thing of what you concerning yourself what other people think, because it's like, I know that's your outward appearance, but ultimately in the grand scheme of your life, it's not going to hold you back from getting to where you want to get to and doing the things you want to do and being the person you want to be.
Yeah. And I actually want to throw in here now, because we have been predominantly speaking in regards to men, and we are asked this question by a lot of men predominantly, but I actually find it's exactly the same for women. Yeah. And it's a sad fact of the media and the magazines, and it damages the whole sort of dating ecosystem, because we haven't mentioned this yet, but it's like with all these magazines and stuff, like a lot of it is photoshopped, and I'm sure you guys have seen this before and stuff. I'm not saying some new information here. On TV, you know, it's like it's manipulated, it's photoshopped. I even see now on Instagram there's apps to help people make their selfies better.
I was looking at The Guardian today, and they're basically saying how people are using so many filters all the time that they're starting to feel like that's how they should look. So they're going and getting plastic surgery so that their faces are smooth and nice like the filter. It's like when I always see pictures on Instagram and I see like a nice girl and there's that smooth skin. And I'm like, well, you know, instantly I'm like, that's not real.
Yeah.
That's fake, right? And it is cool. I understand that people want to use the filters and whatnot, but it's just a case of that. This is damaging our whole thoughts about our own looks and how we should look, right? Because there's no way that you should look. There's no way you shouldn't look, right? We're human beings, we come in different colors and sizes and shapes. And, you know, as one of my ex-girlfriends used to always say to me, she was like, that is why the world works. Because thank God everyone doesn't think the same, because if they did, then where would we be, right? But actually what you're not always present to is that, and we say the media as if it's like one juggernaut evil people all moving in the same direction, but it's a bit more complex now.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got social media, you've got media, but it's all kind of pushing and saying that, you know, men should look this way and women should look this way, or, you know, in a certain bandings. But actually, it's just not the way it is. And you don't need to feel like you have to look a certain way to be accepted and to be loved by other human beings. You know, and you can also love yourself however you look.
Yeah, and it's hugely important, and really, when one does, a whole new world of opportunity opens up to them. Yeah, I can just think of different cases. There was actually the story you're telling me earlier. I really liked of when you were traveling and that guy you met.
Yeah. So I have a friend of mine. Actually, I traveled with him for a long, like on and off for about 6 months. Right, great guy. We had a wonderful time together. But he wouldn't be what women would kind of say classically good looking. You know, he was quite small, and you know, he probably, I think he even said it to me once or twice. He's like, you know, I'm not a good looking guy, but we went out, we had a lot of fun, and he met a lot of women in his time when he was with me, and they loved spending time with him, right? Because he was funny, he was purposeful, he was kind as well in his own way, and he was really quite loving as well. You know, if you met a girl he really liked, he'd really, you know, bend over backwards to spend time with her. But equally, if it kind of was not on his purpose and what he was about doing, he wouldn't necessarily go out of his way. And if they treated him badly, he wouldn't kind of accept that. But he was like I said, he wasn't what we say classically good looking, but it didn't hinder him at all when it came to kind of meeting women at all. I said at all about 3 times there.
Very good. So to wrap this up, then I think we've covered everything here.
I think we've covered our main question, which is basically, do good looks matter?
Yeah. So
in one sentence, could you? What would you say in one sentence if you had to answer that question?
No.
No to answering the question, or just no?
No. So in one sentence, it would be: women are not judging men purely on their level of physicality. Physical appearance is what I mean. I'm just trying to use long words. So women are not judging men based on their physical appearance as much as men think they are.
Because men are thinking that women think mostly like they do.
Yeah.
And men are we really that simple?
Well, that's like 3 sentences now.
No, there's more questions.
No, but the takeaway here is understanding that for men in particular here who've asked us this question, that women are not judging men based on this. And if you're out and you're not getting success and you're thinking it's because of your looks, it's not. It's way, 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 way more important that you work on your own sense of self, your confidence, your character. Even what we discussed in a previous episode about sexual comfort, really being comfortable with that.
Episode 4.
Yeah, really being comfortable with that. And you will find you're way more attractive, and it's got nothing to do with how you look. But actually, in doing so, you will start to appear more attractive because then you have more character. You dress more in alignment. I find everything is an expression of who we are from the inside. So the more that we start to feel good about ourselves, the more we dress like in a way that complements how we feel. Yeah. When you're feeling shabby and you're feeling a bit like, when you're not feeling great, often what happens, like for a lot of us, if we start putting on weight and we're not happy with that, we start wearing darker colors and we try to hide this, or we try to
fitting stuff.
Yeah. We try to pretend like we don't try and somehow make ourselves hide. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to like make ourselves disappear. Even though we're out there. I'm not saying anything about weight here. It's more to the point that when you don't feel good about yourself, how we then change our perception, try and hide ourselves. But when you feel great, then boom, it's the opposite thing. And all of a sudden, whatever, if you like colors, you're wearing colors. You like hats, you're wearing hats. You're just expressing yourself. You're just out there.
Yeah, boom. I like that. Yeah, I agree. I think that I really don't believe that looks matter that much in terms of attractiveness. I think it's something in there, but I don't think it is the most important thing, and I don't think it's as heavily weighted as men often make out.
No.
And I guess we should really make an episode about what makes a man attractive. I think that'd be a good one.
Yes, we will.
Hands up if you'd like to see one of that episode, and we'll put like
I count 2 hands.
Okay. Is this Django?
Right. Yeah. So that's a wrap.
Yeah, I think that's all wrapped up. Yeah, so thank you for listening. Like, we're loving the feedback we're getting from everybody and the questions. And like, the more questions we get, the better. Like, we love kind of shooting the shit over these questions and putting some stuff down on the podcast. What else is there? So if you want to get in contact with us, probably Instagram. Like, we're putting out a lot of content there and videos and some like stuff about how we feel personally about all sorts of topics. But we also can be found at our website, which is theauthenticdatingseries.com. And yeah, that's it. We've got no action for this week.
Oh, no action.
I've got a good one.
Ask us some questions.
So guys, a good action for this week is that if you don't feel that you are good looking, I'd really kind of recommend some kind of eye gazing, just like looking in the mirror at yourself for 3 minutes every morning. Just get used to looking at yourself and just kind of accepting how you look.
Cool.
Peace out, guys. Have a good week. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.